joining us on the Book Talk segment of the show today. Great pleasure to welcome a man who has had really an interesting job. He was the first official White House videographer for President Obama from 2009 to 2011. He's written a book about it, his experiences. It's called First Cameraman, documenting the Obama presidency in real time. And we're joined today by Arun Chaudhary on the telephone. And Arun, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks so much for letting me call in.
Yeah, good to have a chance to talk to you. I read through the book and really fascinated. First of all, when we had the opportunity to have you on, I knew the White House and presidents have had people following around and documenting them, you know, from a photography standpoint, but I didn't know there was an actual videographer job. Were you the first, or
yeah, you know, this is something I think people thought was a logical extension of having the White House photographer. Now that we have the technology to be able to have small enough cameras, you know, to follow folks around, and it was something that we worked a lot with on the campaign. And so I thought when we transitioned over to the White House, we were like, well, let's see how we can expand the White House photo office to kind of meet the 21st century.
How did you get the job?
Well, you know, I applied for it on Craigslist. Actually, you know, there's no clear path to becoming the first White House videographer. In fact, my background isn't even in documentary filmmaking or journalism. It's in fiction filmmaking. And so it wasn't until a good friend of mine who knew I was passionate about politics, who was a journalist, she was working at CNN, was hired by the Obama campaign, that she reached out to me and said, hey, I think you should come out to Chicago. There's something interesting happening here, and I think you could really apply yourself to it.
It's fascinating. I know your background is in film, NYU, and of course Cornell, so I'm from up there as well. Great film department, but like I said, it's a different kind of filmmaking when you're following somebody around. It's not scripted necessarily, obviously it isn't. I mean, it's live action, so it's a different kind of filmmaking, isn't it, for video making?
Yeah, you know, absolutely. You know, and I think it's something that that just would not have been allowed to happen if the candidate at the time, Senator Obama, and his senior advisors weren't absolutely confident that this was a good idea and a good fit for him, for Barack Obama.
Did you have any, I guess, input from the administration itself, or did they just tell you just follow him around and tape everything? And then I know you had a daily or weekly show you kind of put online. Well, was that basically it, or were there other things you said?
And that was basically it. My mandate was to document the presidency for history, and that's the mandate of the photo office. And it was an interesting conundrum for me. What does that mean? You know, I didn't want to just accumulate a bunch of stuff and put it in the archives and say that's good enough. I think with the internet and with YouTube, you have the ability to present movies, to present history that week, that month, 5 years, 10 years, and I think all these people bring a different perspective to the footage. And so I was definitely wanting a vehicle that I could include this footage in, and West Wing Week really turned out to be that.
Yeah, that was something you did every week, and you did your own editing, and pretty much like you talk about in the book, sometimes on laptops, and you upload it wherever you can, right?
Yeah, you know, I mean, you know, everyone's like, oh yeah, throw it up on the internet, but actually, when you're spending a lot of your day traveling in planes, trains, and helicopters, just uploading from the internet can end up being kind of a harrowing experience.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that, you know, in sports and other things, but yeah, sometimes it's a little frustrating getting it up there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about, first of all, what kind of equipment did they provide the camera for you, or what kind of equipment did you use?
Yeah, of course. You know, I worked equipment that'd be very familiar to anyone working in independent film, especially in a low budget level. I used a Sony EX3 camera, which is a prosumer kind of small, very recognizable camera, and I used a Mac laptop with Final Cut Pro on it. So this was a very, very simple affair, and I think that kind of stripped down approach is great when you're trying to, you know, demystify something as large as the presidency. I think the kind of rawness and the immediacy and the authenticity of this footage was immediately recognizable to the American people and even to journalists as legitimate, and I think that headed off a lot of what might have been criticism of what I was doing otherwise.
Were you literally, whatever the day starts, 8 o'clock, on a normal day, obviously things can change, but were you like an 8 to 5, everything the president did, or certain things that...
I would say about 8:30 to 6.
Okay.
Which is, I think, sort of generally when you're doing public events when they end up hitting. But here's the thing. So I left the campaign, I had a staff of 6. At the White House, it was just me. So 6 o'clock rolls around, that's when I'm rolling up my sleeves to start editing. So, you know, pretty soon into the administration, I would be the last person who would be EEOB, which is definitely a hard thing to be. There'd be security, all the lights would be turned out, and it'll be me, oftentimes down to my undershirt, screaming at a computer on the fourth floor. In fact, sometimes I stayed so late that I had trouble leaving. I had trouble finding doors that were still open.
I've been there myself, screaming at the computer.
Oh, yeah.
Now, obviously, you shoot all that footage, and that's great, but like you said, it all comes down to the editing. I guess as you go through the day, you must take some notes to say, well, this is a highlight, and I know where to go to it. Otherwise, editing will take forever.
Definitely. I think it's about taking notes, both mental and physical, and also, there's a tendency with these little cameras, and we all have these memory cards of just shooting everything and figuring it out later. And that's not what I try to do. I try to identify what I thought was interesting in a situation, and then shoot those shots, and not try to just shoot everything. I wanted someone who's looking at my material, who's a historian, maybe they're a documentarian working on a different documentary, to be able to go into these archives and pull out things that will be useful to them as a filmmaker, not just as a historian, but actually as a filmmaker. God, I wish someone had taken an establishing shot at NASA before that shuttle launch. Somebody did. I did. I tried to always have that hat on, like the historian of the future is trying to put together a movie and just needs one more establishing shot. Can somebody please take it for him? That was me.
What did you have any in other words, editor above you that determined, well, this should go in, this shouldn't, or were you pretty much?
Well, anything that's released goes through the White House press office, and so they all always saw the things that I did. But the level of trust was such that by the end of my time at the White House for Western Week, I was getting approval based on a script, because I wouldn't always have time to actually edit together, but I could kind of tell them what was going to happen.
Right.
So you'd be like, and then the space shuttle launches. And if you just literally write it out, and they would look at it and be like, oh, that sounds good. And they had enough trust in me that then I would put it online without anyone even having looked at it, but with people understanding what the general content was.
And you were in the Oval Office a lot in more private moments where the general press wasn't there, right? You got to videotape.
Oh, absolutely. The press corps is big, and calling them in and out of the Oval Office takes kind of quite a while. And so there's a lot of events that it's not like they're so secure you don't want the press there, but it's just unwieldy to bring these people everywhere you go. Obviously,
you get a much more insight into the president as a person doing this. Just seems from seeing the pictures in the book, you got along pretty well. I guess he doesn't mind. I mean, you got to get used to having cameras follow you, but yours is a little bit more different because you were with him literally every minute almost.
Yeah, it was too late to get shy now is what I used to tell people. They'd be like, how does the president react to you filming him all the time? I'm like, look, we've been doing this for a while. This is our thing.
You enjoyed it? A really guy to be with? I mean, not politically I'm talking about, but just as a person.
Oh, absolutely. Like a great boss in those ways. He's always very good at finding who's uncomfortable in the room, making sure that they feel a little more comfortable. It is actually a really funny moment once when I was shooting. He's very curious about what you're doing and how you're doing and why you're doing it. And I finished filming him making a phone call, and then I was filming the phone to see a cutaway. And you're around all the time, and you're work friends, but since I'm around so often, he probably isn't really looking at me. And so he wanted to know something, so he really looked at me and was like, hey, why are you filming that? And I explained I wanted to cut away. And then he kind of looked a little closer and was like, Arun, you really need to get a haircut. Which was the case. I actually did really need to get a haircut. But you're around people so much that, you don't always, you can't see the hair. It's because you become a fixture, a part of the background.
I know we have limited time today, but there's some great stories in the book, and I recommend people get it to get a kind of a first-hand inside look at what goes on in the White House and with the president. The name of the book is called First Cameraman, documenting the Obama presidency in real time. And everyone give out a website and get a hold of the book or get a hold of you they like.
Yeah, people want to learn more about this book or even see more videos and more pictures, they can go to firstcameraman.com, and also has links to all the different ways they can find out about events going on around the book.
Great. Aaron, pleasure to talk to you, and enjoyed reading the book, and hopefully we can do it again sometime. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.